My name is Nancy, and this is my husband, Glenn. We've been members of GT for the last 10 years. About 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with diabetes, and my doctor, being as aware of this new takeover of diabetes, prescribed medication to protect my kidneys. As it turned out, I'm allergic to this drug. And as a result, I had a heart attack, one that I didn't know I'd had. And I was fortunate when I got to the hospital that I had a doctor who has a lot of experience and recognized that I'd had a heart attack. Prescribed medication to protect my kidneys, which is usually a very integral part of aging with diabetes. As it turned out, I'm allergic to this drug, and it caused an allergic reaction, which is called ketoacidosis. And basically, what that is your blood carries a lot of acid throughout your body and starts to break down pieces of your heart and your other organs. As a result, I had a heart attack, one that I didn't know I'd had. There was no pain, there was no symptoms at all whatsoever. And I was fortunate when I got to the hospital that I had a doctor who has a lot of experience and recognized that I'd had a heart attack. I met a nurse the night before my surgery, and she was very new to nursing, and she kept talking to me and helping me calm down, knowing that what I was going through the next day. And she wanted to know, as a teacher, how did I keep control? And I said, I had a thing called the teacher's finger. And if I pointed my finger at you, you knew, and I called your name, you knew time to settle down. She took my finger that night and she turned it back on me and she said, you've got this, you're going to do fine. You need to get some sleep now, so go to sleep.
Wow. That's good.
I was actually terrified, but sometimes ignorance is bliss, because I didn't really know a lot about what was wrong with me, and I didn't know a lot about what they were going to do, and I didn't know what day the surgery was going to be, so it wasn't ever it's tomorrow kind of feeling. They just came in and took me and my bed out, and I said, where am I going? And they said, we're taking you to the OR. And when I got to the OR, it was like being in a TV show because there were machines all over the place and people all over the place.
So the day of the surgery, my son had flown in, of course, immediately from the West Coast, and my daughter came in from Vaughan. And we were upstairs when they were taking her down for the surgery at about 1 o'clock. It was a beautiful fall afternoon at Hamilton General, and beautiful sunny day. And they took Nancy down, and it was supposed to be a 6.5-hour surgery. And about 4 o'clock, I started to get kind of antsy. And I said to my kids, I need to go outside for a break. And so I went, they said, okay. And I went downstairs, and I don't know if everybody's familiar with Hamilton General, but it's at the corner of Barton and Victoria Streets in Hamilton. It's a busy area of town, and it's an old hospital, so it's right out near that intersection. And there's a beautiful green lawn area out front, and there's a circular interlock area with kind of a half wall all around it. And people are sitting out there and eating sandwiches and enjoying the day, and the hospital's busy. There's people going in and out of the front doors like literally every 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And it's busy on the streets. And I was sitting there and I'm watching an older couple beside me, and they had just finished eating their sandwiches. And I watched them pack up their refuse, and they turned to walk up to go in the hospital, and I watched them put their garbage in the front door. I had to turn this way. And when I turned back around to look, I looked up, and there was nobody in the circle. There was no cars moving on the street. I don't recall seeing cars. No people on the sidewalks over here on Victoria Street. I look out on Barton Street. There was nobody there, nothing moving. It was just me, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? And then I look up and I see the figure of a man. There's a bit of a walkway kind of at an angle that comes right from the corner into the circle. And I saw an outline of a man, and I just kind of looked down, and then he's walking, and I can see it's like he's walking towards me with a purpose. And he gets into the edge of the circle. It's maybe, 10 yards away. He walks up, he's about maybe 2 or 3 yards from me. He looks at me, he had the bluest eyes I've ever seen, and he said, "Are you okay, brother?" And I said, "No, not really. My wife's halfway through a bypass surgery, and she's very weak. I'm worried about her, da-da-da-da." And he took 2 steps forward, looked at me and smiled, and he put his hand on this shoulder, and he said, "Don't worry, she's got this. In fact, she's already home." And he said it so convincingly, and then he took his hand off my shoulder, and I turned and watched him, and he walked, and it was just him and me, and he walked, and I watched him go through the front doors of the hospital. Nobody there. I watched him go through, and then I turned back around like this. I looked up, and there was traffic on Bart Street, Victoria Street, people walking.
But he said the same thing to me that the nurse had, or to him, that the nurse had said to me the night before.
Right.
So there were messages coming.
So,
and they were soothing messages.
Why? So there was something very special about it, and I just went back inside, went upstairs, and kind of fast forward to, it was a 6.5 hour surgery. We were at about the 7 hour mark, and the surgeon told my son, he said, the surgery was successful. And he said, it wasn't a triple bypass, it was a quadruple bypass. And he said, your mother is very weak. And he said, I didn't like the look of the heart. He had some concerns about the color of the lungs. So that was the information that we got. And we went home that night, and I was upstairs, and I had been praying, and then I got my kids together, and we gathered at the top of the stairs in the hallway, and we said a prayer, and we asked Jesus to please help and to guide the hands and hearts of those that were helping us and helping Nance. And we did that. We went to bed, and it was pretty difficult to get any sleep. And I called in, and I got the nurse in the intensive care section, and I asked about Nancy, and she said, yes, she's still very, very weak. There's been no changes. She's very, very weak. And we thought they were feeling she might not make it through the night. That's kind of how we felt about it. So flash forward to Saturday, and I said to the kids, let's go pack up. We have to go in there. And they were kind of like, well, we don't know if we're supposed to or not. And I said, no, we have to go. There was a nurse beside her, and I'm looking, and the nurse is pulling something out of her arm. And I look over to the left here, and there's a veteran nurse and a young nurse with a clipboard, and they're both smiling, talking to each other. And the veteran nurse makes eye contact with me, and she said, are you Mr. Sisman? I said, yes. And she walked toward me, and she said, you're not going to believe this, but in the last half hour, your wife has done a complete 180. And she said, we have no explanation for this. And that immediately made me think of, don't worry, she's got this. In fact, she's already home.
So clear.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then she said to me, if you'd been here about 5 minutes ago, the doctor was here, and the nurse handed him, when he got the report, he looked at it, and she said he turned to the nurse that handed him the report and gave her one of the biggest hugs they've ever seen him. So even the doctor was thrilled with the latest results. So
it has been so encouraging.
We did go in to see cardiac, and his words were, "Where's the strongest woman I know?" when he came in the room, because he was amazed that she had made it through all of this. And
he said, "I don't have any explanation for what, but we know you're strong." And I said, "I do." And he looked at me and he said, "Okay."
yes,
I said, "Maybe I'm a cat and I have 9 lives." And he said to me, "If you have 9 lives, you've used 3 of them. You've had 3 miracles in your life to be here today."
yeah, he said, "You've only got 6 left." He said, "Because for you to make it through ketoacidosis all by itself," he said, "you had one of the worst cases we've ever seen. For you to live through that's amazing. For you to live through the heart attack with some damage, that's a miracle." And he said, "And then for you to make it through all of that in a weakened state." So he said, "There's 3 miracles right there." And she scored 45 that day in his office. And he said, "I don't know how you're doing this, but just keep doing it." So,
And I went back to see the surgeon about 3 months after surgery. And my functionality rate was back to normal. And he said, You've made it through." He said, "Just look at you." He said, "You're healthy, you're happy, you're here with me."
yeah, so when you go through something like that, I know that something very special happened, and I was looking just for something that would describe. And my mom has a book called Streams in the Desert. I think it was copyrighted in like 1925, so this book is almost 100 years old. And the passage that I found that best described how I felt when it was just Jesus and myself. "There are times and places where God will form a mysterious wall around us and cut away all props and all the ordinary ways of doing things and shut us up to something divine, which is utterly new and unexpected, something that old circumstances do not fit into, where we do not know just what will happen, where God is cutting his cloth of our lives on a new pattern, where he makes us look to himself." And that it was just Jesus and myself. I'm so thankful. And she's got this. Don't worry, she's got this. In fact, she's already home. I still remember him. I still remember the words. I'll never forget it. Pastor Tim talks about Jesus being the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I look at a book like this kind of stuff happening 100 years ago. This continues to happen because Jesus is the same forever. And we forget, though, that it's his timing because he knows best. And we just put our trust there. And I know Pastor Tim has talked about focusing on what is unseen rather than what is seen. And sometimes when you're getting hit with numbers and all these different things, it's difficult. But you have to remember we have an amazing God who is supernatural and can do anything. Yeah, so I just think God acts in ways, he's I just think of how his thoughts are not our thoughts, his ways are not our ways. His thoughts and ways are so far above our thoughts and ways, yet he knows what's best. And you have to trust that. Like, you have to know that, kind of let it be, let go and let God.